Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make pickled watermelon rinds. I'm a firm believer on waste not, want not, and I'm going to show you how you can use something that you would normally throw away to make a really delicious pickle. Alright, let's get to it. So step one to our watermelon rind pickles is you want to make sure you even have enough rind to make pickles. You're going to need about 6 pounds of watermelon rind per batch. Today I'm going to double my batch because I picked up a huge watermelon from Mr. Curtis at the Mansfield Farmers Market, and it is about 13 pounds. And that's plenty for a double batch. So our next step would be to make our brine solution. So what you want is, for this double batch, 6 quarts of water, and then you're going to need 1.5 cups of canning salt. So that was 1 cup. There's a quarter. And then here is the other quarter. So that's 1.5. And that's the first step. I'm going to stir this up. Get some of this water dissolving. Getting the salt dissolved in the water. And I'm just going to let this hang out for a minute. Our next step is to trim up our watermelon rind. Alright, boys and girls, here is our next step. You're going to need your watermelon for this. You're going to trim the pink flesh from the watermelon and the green skin from the outside. And then we're going to cut these into 1-inch squares. You could also use like a cookie cutter and make fancy designs or whatever you want to do. And then once we have all this chopped up, we're going to put it in our brine solution. We're going to add a few trays of ice cubes, and then we're just going to let it set for 3 or 4 hours. There's a couple of ways to do this. Let's show you one. You can see I've pretty much got all the flesh out. You just want the really big pieces of pink gone. This would be good for your kids to do for you outside on the front porch. Okay, so that's most of the meat. And then I've seen you can trim it all like this. I may need to use a different peeler or my knife for this. Yeah, let's use a knife. So we're just going to get in here and cut all this green off. This is a very tough watermelon. And all this you can just compost. You don't need any of this. I guess technically you could eat this. I have a fridge full of watermelon right now. And you can see I have most of this off. So you can get this very little bit off. And then little 1-inch cubes. And this is going to go in our brining solution. Working with the smaller strips is a lot easier than the big ones. It's a lot easier to handle. It's a lot easier to cut. See how easy that was? Boom. Just like that. Alright, that's our first wedge. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more to go. Alright, on to our next wedge. I found I don't like using the spoon. It's too splashy. I like using these 2 knives instead. So, we're going to cut it in strips. And then we'll trim it up. Now I'll use my little knife to trim. It's much quicker. Alright, I'm going to do the rest of this watermelon. I'm going to get it in my pot here, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Well done. Okay, so everything is chopped. It's in 6 cups of water, 1.5 cups of canning salt, and you're just gonna add 3 or 4 ice trays, and then you're gonna just let this hang out for 3 or 4 hours. Alright, so it's been 4 hours. I drained and rinsed my pieces of watermelon rind, and they're a lot softer now. They give when you squeeze them. They're not near as crunchy, so these are going to be a lot easier to eat. The next step is to cover this with clean water and bring it to a boil and boil it for 10 minutes. While my watermelon rind is cooking, I need it to get to fork tender. I'm going to start my syrup that I will can the pickles in. This is sugar, water, and vinegar. And it's not very clear because I use an unrefined sugar, so when it cooks it has a light brown color to it. I don't use white sugar. The next thing I'm going to do is I have a mesh tea steeper thingamajig, and I'm going to put some cloves and some cinnamon sticks in here, and I'm going to drop it down in here, and I'm going to go put this on the stove, let it boil for about 5 minutes, get it all dissolved, let the cinnamon and the cloves infuse in the syrup, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I have my syrup coming to temperature on the stove. I have my watermelon rind going on the stove. The last thing I need is lemon. We're going to slice this up, and it's going to go inside with the rind. I need to sharpen my knife. Alright, I have the lemon sliced. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my watermelon pieces, drain them again, and then I'm going to take my brine solution or my syrup, and I'm going to pour it on top of the watermelon slices, and we're going to let it set overnight. These just finished cooking. You're supposed to let it set overnight. I did 2 nights. Then you bring it up to room temperature, put it on the stove for about an hour, and just slowly cook it. You want everything really hot. You want a hot pack can. Alright, the next step is canning. Okay guys, so this is what it's going to look like. This is the watermelon rind pickles, and I did a 1/2 inch headspace. I put a cinnamon stick in each of the jars, and these are super hot. Wipe the rims down. I'm going to put a lid. I'm going to put them in my canner. I'm going to wait for it to come to a boil. Then once it comes to a boil, I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes. And then they'll be done. And I'll be back in a second. I'm going to have the entire recipe in the description. So don't feel like you have to pause this and write everything down. Just look in the description and I'll post the entire recipe. And I'm using a USDA safely tested recipe, just so you know. Okay, so this was supposed to have made 10 pints, and I only got 7. Just so you know, the numbers came out a little different. But it looks good, it's really pretty, and it is going in the canner. Alright guys, here's the finished product. It's so beautiful. Seven pints. I had doubled my recipe, so I should have had between 8 and 10, and I had 7. If you've ever made Old Southwest cucumber pickles or cinnamon pickles, this recipe is sort of similar to that. Very vinegary and sugary. You can see I put 1 cinnamon stick in each jar. A lot of people put the cloves, but I prefer the cinnamon over the cloves floating around. It's just easier to navigate a cinnamon stick than a clove that may get crushed or broken inside the jar. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. They look gorgeous. I'm going to take one out in the sunshine and take a picture of it when these cool down. They're still very, very hot. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!